Hello, fabulous person. Beate Chelette here, the Growth Architect. Welcome back to the Business Growth Architect Show, where we bring you cutting-edge business strategies from some of the world's most successful entrepreneurs, business transformation experts, and visionaries who want to help you to scale your impact. Look for one tangible strategy that you can take back and implement right away. And now back to our guest. Welcome back, everyone. Beate Chelette here, the Growth Architect. Today, we're going to talk about something that you love to hate or hate to love, or it's something that is so critically important in your business. We are talking about copy, specifically about copy that is good for SEO. And with me today, we have Erin Ollila, and I am so excited to talk to her about this topic because I think copywriting is hard. Erin, I'm so excited for you to be here. Thank you for being on the show.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. I think copywriting is hard too, and I've been doing it a long time. So I absolutely love to talk to people who really want to know the strategy behind making it easier, more enjoyable, and done well. Obviously, strategic, right? So that we're actually getting the type of attraction that we want from our marketing efforts.
Yeah, 100%. So, would you please tell our audience who you are and what you do and give us a little bit of background on who you are, please?
You bet. I started my business about 6.5 years ago. Originally, when I first started moving out of my last traditional job, I worked creating content for really large brands, mostly Fortune 500 companies, with the majority of them being on the early, like 100 side of that. And the exciting part about that was that I was able to play with marketing budgets of companies that wanted to test things, that wanted to try things, that wanted to um, take the advanced step when it comes to SEO, to content creation, to website copy. But what I found after a while is even though I thought I had started my own business, what I was really being was a freelancer for really large companies. I didn't set my own deadlines. I didn't necessarily get to ideate all of the topics of what I wrote about. And I loved creating the content, but I really started to feel bad for the peers who were, businesses my size or even slightly larger than me because they don't have the budgets that the Fortune 500 companies have for marketing. They don't even have necessarily a team to do marketing. They're just expected to show up and know how to do everything when it comes to writing their own website copy, their blog content. So that's how I niche down into working with small to mid-sized businesses. I think that it was more of a heart-based decision of just wanting to actually make the biggest impact that I could and bring copy coaching and copywriting to the types of organizations that had all of the skills, all of the talents, all of the drive, and they just needed a little extra help to get that part of their business in front of the right people. So right now, I mainly focus on SEO copywriting. How can we attract people to your website? And how can we have a website that has the best user experience as well as the most strategic way to move someone who comes to your website, a lead, let's say, into being a buyer. We don't want just visitors at our website. We want to have a clear plan on how to move them through the pages and the content that we've created. So that way, when they're looking at working with us, they can feel so confident and excited to actually take that leap and be like, sure, the price point here isn't a big deal for me because I trust this person. I know what they're offering, and I feel confident about making this purchasing decision.
So, I want to dive in with you on something really sort of fundamental, right? So, the first thing that somebody sees when they find me, aside from a podcast where they can hear me, is my website or something that
Mhm.
I've wrote or something that is published somewhere. So they go and they're now at my website. A lot of business owners are getting templates and then they're filling in these kinds of templates. What is the difference, Erin, between SEO copy and the copy most business owners have? Because I think it's really important to understand what is.
Yeah, no, that's a two-part question. So the first part is, can copy where you're filling in templates work for your business? The answer to that really is a big question mark, but one that's leaning towards no, because copy should be informing design. When consumers, and in this case, B2B consumers, so these businesses that want to purchase a design template or even hire a designer, what they initially and automatically think of is what a design looks like. And the best way I try to get everyone's mind frame around this idea of copy leading design is to think of a big brand's website. Let's say Target, for example. Now, imagine the website like literally in your mind, and then take all the words, strip the words away from the entire website. All you're going to see is a lot of white background. You're going to see a circle with another circle inside of it, and maybe pictures. But again, the pictures won't even help you because there can't be any words on the brands, like what they're selling, right? So, is it an archery business? Like, what is it? The message, the words drive the design, right? So, I think that's the easiest way to see it in your own head when you're looking at your own website and saying, like, is this working for me? Does the words that I have here really speak to the client that I want to serve? So that's step 1. Step 2, to answer your more direct question, is what does SEO copy necessary? Could regular copywriting work? And the way that I like to have people think about it, especially if you take that suggestion of like looking at Target's website, is how do people get to your website? You're right. If you're on a podcast episode, a lot of the times maybe the link will be in the show notes. Someone might click over to your site. If you go to an in person networking event, maybe you're handing a business card, or maybe they're just remembering your name and actually searching you out. But that is not the majority of your actual customers. I think if business owners were to do a quick dive on where their customers are coming in the funnel, it's not going to be the people that they already have a one-on-one relationship with. It's going to be people who have searched for a problem. This is organic search as an example. So, how do I hire a wedding photographer? Or, what does a coach do? All these type of things. That's how they're finding people's websites. Even the podcast example, they have to actually make the decision to click over. A lot of people listen to podcasts on the go. They're in their car, they're on a run. They're not clicking a link on their phone while you're talking. They're just remembering to themselves, "Oh my gosh, I really loved what she had to say. I want to go back and find her." So, that's all based on SEO. People find you if you're looking at the copy that you're creating and you're creating it with certain strategic choices, such as using keywords and keyword phrases that the ideal clients are going to be searching to find you. And I know I'm kinda on a rant at this point, but the best way to think about why this helps is because people, there are many different types of buyers, right? We have our buyers who are, ready to buy, they're ready to purchase. We have our buyers who are aware of what we're offering, and those 2 groups of people, if they're searching for a solution, so you want to be the first search result that they see when they're doing that search, because these types of buyers, they're aware of what you're offering and they're ready to purchase. So if they come to your website, they will get that trust, get to know you and say, "Okay, this person has a solution to the need that I have." They're already ready to purchase. It's not like someone who's just searching the internet for a random search term and finds your website. They're not looking for what you're offering. But if you're using the right phrasing on your site and you're taking a strategic approach to top of funnel and bottom of funnel SEO content, you're really getting the most ideal clients in the door at a point when they're both ready and aware of what you have to offer them.
So I want to give like a tangible example for this. So to bring this really alive for our audience. So when you go out and you say to people, do you want to make more money? Do you want more sales? Do you want to attract more customers? Do you want to find more clients? It's all really the same thing. But Erin, is it the same thing?
No. I mean, it is all the same thing, but it's not if we look at when we really drive deep into the strategy aspect, right? So you're going to have people who are coming to you that are not, they are aware of your offer or your service, but they are not ready to buy. That's fine. We don't want to kick those people out either because eventually they will become ready to buy. So I think it really you have to look at who's coming to you and at what point in their buying journey that they're ready to purchase from you. So yes, surface value, all of the things that you said are the same, but when we look at it at what's going to actually convert, right? Like what's going to take me from just a random lead to an actual client, there is a variance of difference there.
Yes, 100%. And that depends on the type of client you attract and
Agreed.
how and what their language is that they're using. I find that in the creative space, things around making more sales do not work, but finding more clients somehow seems to resonate with that audience. So you have to be very clear in your copy. I just want to have a tangible example. So talk to us, please, Erin. Share how can I use this type of SEO copy as a strategy? What's the strategy behind it?
Yeah, so I think the first thing is we have to separate the difference between copy and content. Um, while I could argue this in many different ways, if we're looking at our website specifically, I would say to think of copy as the pages on your website. So the home page, about, services, contact, all of those type of pages. And content is anything where your words have more room. So blog post, podcast show notes, case studies, anything like that would be the content on your site. When we're looking at a strategic approach, we want to make sure that we are um, first doing the research. And what we have to do before, even before we step in any type of SEO keyword research tool, is we need to know who we're speaking to, like you said. We need to know what they need to hear from us. And then we need to actually gut check that to make sure that we're not giving DIY like content to people who want to hire you for a done for you service. That's something that I see that goes wrong all of the time, is that people are answering things in the way that they think they're being educational, providing great quality content to their audience, which is awesome. But there's a very small line between providing education and showing someone how to do it on their own. So looking at those things, we would then head to an SEO tool, or obviously hire an SEO copywriter to do this for you. But we'd go to an SEO tool and we'd take those types of phrases, the content ideas that we have, and we'd search what has the best traction for us. And I am going to suggest that you look at the volume of searches. So, how many times is this searched every month? And you compare that to the type of competition there is online. Obviously, you want to get the most searches to the lowest competition. And I think that sometimes business owners don't see the value in taking a lower searched keyword that has less competition. So let's say, for example, maybe this keyword only has about 100 searches a month, whereas a similar keyword might have 5,000. But the 5,000 searched keyword also has 2 million pages that are targeting that keyword on the internet. So, really, what you're going to do, I know this is a lot, right? I don't want to overwhelm you, but you're going to just look at, is the content that I want to write for my clients to get them to let them, excuse me, get to know me better and gets to know how I can help them. Is that content going to be strategically given to them with the right words and phrases? And that's what you create. And if you've already created a ton of content, I say put the pause on the creation here for a second and go back and audit what you've done and repurpose the content you've created or adjust your SEO strategy so that it's working better for you. Because it's great to create content, but SEO is a long term game. It's going to take 6 to 9 months to really get ranking on the search results, ranking high enough. So if you can adjust what you've already created, that can all work for you as you create the new content that's going to take a little time to rank.
Thank you so much for listening to the show. This is Beate, the growth architect. I'm so excited that you're here. Thank you so much for your time. Have you ever wondered why your business is not growing as quickly as you would like it to be? Well, you may have a business growth blocker. And if you'd like to find out what that business growth blocker is, go and take our brand new quiz at growthblockerquiz.com. And in only a few minutes, you're not just going to find out what that blocker is, but also what to do about it. Again, go to growthblockerquiz.com. And now back to the show. And welcome back. I'm here with Erin. We're talking about SEO and copy, and you just shared what sort of this overall strategy is and the amount of time we really need to plan to get this right. Um, I'm going to ask you a different question that I hadn't planned on, but one of the strategies that I recommend is when we are flushing out our unique value proposition statements or our positioning statements, I recommend following the format of a capabilities briefing, which really answers the questions who, why, what, when, where, how, so that you, as the business owner, really are forced to go through like a deck, almost like a pitch deck, and really get that clarified. And then once you have that copy, then you can take that copy and put it on your website. Because if you're forcing yourself to do it in a short amount of time, then or in a short amount of space, you can eliminate all the unnecessary words. So if you were to add to that, then is that a good strategy? Is that something that we can tell them how to start with? What
Yeah,
would
that's
you add?
actually a great starting place, especially if we want to look at SEO for copy individually, right? So this is the one big question that I get often. Like people will say, I understand content, with the more room to write. It's easier to ideate on how we'd use the same type of phrases or keyword synonyms more often in our copy. But then when we get to our website pages, we should all be keeping them concise and clear. So we know we can't keep saying SEO website copywriter 400 times throughout the page because it's going to sound like I'm a robot, right? Like we want to actually make that connection with the person reading and be as unrobotic as possible.
Hmm.
Now, in the example that you just shared, where you're doing a time constraint or even a space constraint for pulling out your USP, what we can do is look at the places where that content can go on the site and use that as the ideator for the keywords that we do our research for. As an example, the who, what, why, when, and where, when we do the why, maybe that would be an about page like statement. So like, why are you doing what you're doing? What's the driving force behind your business? If in that you're finding that you're using like a phrase that really works well for your ideal client, or what I like to call like a job description like phrase, maybe that's what you're going to use for your SEO um, on that page, and then you go into a keyword tool and that's where you do your research specifically for, like, again, a job description like keyword. And in case I'm confusing anyone, what I would mean in my example is a website copywriter. For my website on my about page, maybe that is what I want to use. Whereas on my done for you website copy page, maybe I'd want to differentiate it by saying like website copy or SEO website, right? So we want to know, based on where we place all of that information that you just mentioned on the page, that could be a driving force to actually do the research to figure out the most quality keywords to use.
Yeah, I love that, and that's why I wanted to bring it up because as I was talking to you and as we're leading into this conversation, you had said to me that you were impressed with how clear we were about some of the workflows that we do. And the reason we are clear about the workflows is because we follow a format, we follow a process, surprisingly, not
Mhm.
surprisingly. And so if I were now to go back after this interview and say, okay, where can we be better? I would then go to my capabilities deck and I say, okay, so now let's take a look at where I'm actually describing my services. And then we would have to look at the keywords and say, uh, coaching. I'm, you know, a coach, but I'm really more of a consultant and more as a strategist. But will somebody look for a strategist, a business strategist? Probably not. They probably look more for a business coach because that's the term that they use. I don't like that term, but they use that term. So So that's, I think, where this copy piece that you're talking about becomes really intricate because you have to detach yourself from with your unique value proposition and your differentiation factor, but you still have to be searchable under the terms that other people are actually looking for with the limited knowledge that they have. How do I
Yeah,
solve this?
I'm so glad you brought that up. And honestly, this is where data and research is so important. I think when people hear copywriter, they imagine that I sit at my desk and, write in a notepad and type away at my keys
With a
all
glass
day.
of wine, thank
With
you.
a Oh, that would be great. Um, but that is not actually what I do at all. I will say the actual writing portion is done quickly, and the only reason it's done quickly, though, is because there is a strategy and a serious amount of research that goes into writing the copy. So, taking it from what you just said, I think that I have a great example. I worked with someone who was coaching young adults. She was in corporate coaching, so she had a long experience of it, was really dipping her toe into the coaching world to see if she wanted to take it full time. So her sweet spot where she really wanted to work was with teenagers going into college and students coming out of college. She wanted to kind of coach that age group. So we talked, how do you want to be known? Like all of these questions a copywriter will ask you about your USP, and she was very clear. She's like, "Oh, yeah, I am a coach, like, maybe call it like mentor. I'm not really sure of these words I should use." Well, when we did the research, we found that there was immensely significant difference between like teenage coach or teenage mentor because there was such high volume of football coaches, of mentors that help you with like studying compared to teenage life coach, which was super highly searched every month and the tiniest competition ever. So I brought this to her. We had this conversation. And at first, she was really anxious because, she comes from the corporate coaching world and she didn't like the idea of identifying herself as a life coach. So we talked through it, and honestly, sometimes these decisions need to get slept on, and sometimes they also need to get tested. And I will say I won't jump that far, but I'll come right back there. So anyway, she decided she wanted to go with life coach, and what she found was an immediate jump in clients because people that were searching it, which ended up being a lot of parents of the kids going into college. The parents were intelligent enough to know that a life coach could help their kid. The kid wasn't necessarily seeking that out, but the parents were the one who were paying for the coaching. So we have to then look at all of this data and realize that's like, who's the client here? Is the client the parent or is the client the student? So it really takes some time to sit with things. But jumping to the side again for a second, we also want to then look at this information that we have and go for the test. So if you do not test SEO, you will not know what results actually work. And I know people hate this because there is an urgency in marketing that they want to see results and see them right away to know if it's going to work or not. But SEO is a long-term game, and it is one that will serve you for the long term as well. It's not going to just take 6 or 9 months to work and then it's going to work for a couple months and great, let's try something else. It could be bringing you clients years and years down the road. When the pandemic first started, I say this all the time, so my apologies if anyone's ever heard me say this before, but when the pandemic started, these little tiny bakers, at-home bakers that were maybe making sourdough starters and sending them out as their business, they got a 9,000% increase on searches overnight because people were home and they wanted to make sourdough bread. They wanted to test
Go
out their own.
figure, right? Sourdough bread, really?
Right, 9,000% increase. It was remarkable for companies like even huge companies like King Arthur Flour. They couldn't keep up with the demand of flour. That's why we couldn't get it during the pandemic. Obviously, supply chain for everything. But think about that. A pandemic started that. That wasn't like, a TV show about bread making that made people curious. It was an unknown event that completely changed that person's business trajectory. And SEO did that for them, right? So these people are like selling their businesses now because they've done so well of something that was completely out of their control, something that they might have written a blog post about 2 years before, but overnight the switch flipped and the clients came to them. So, really just remember, test and be patient. It's kind of like we talk about investing, right? Right? Put your money in, but you can't just take it out of the stock market the next day because you decide you didn't like that it moved this needle a tiny. You have to let it sit and see what happens to make smart investments. You're doing the same for SEO.
I love that. And so, what is your favorite strategy you want to share with our audience today?
Yeah, I think my favorite thing to do is to repurpose content. And what I mean by that could be two different things. It could be that you take something that you've written, like a long form content, and adjust it so you have a new SEO approach to saying, okay, this thing didn't serve me well. I wrote this article, I've tried to do the keyword, and I thought it would really take off and it didn't. So you look at it and you say, okay, let's look at the keyword and then let's look at the content and determine, is something off here? Do we not have a call to action that's solid? Is the intent off? And this is what I see all the time. Someone will use a keyword phrase because they think it's really great, but then they'll title it like in a way to attract a client. But then the client gets to the blog post and it's a letdown because it's not actually what they were looking for. Let's say it's like how to buy a house, for an example. And then you actually come to the website and it's not about how to buy a house, it's what to do when you have a new home. That's the intent being off. So look at the old content that you've written and see if you can make adjustments. And on the flip side, when it comes to repurposing, is look at the off site content you already created and see if you can build it out. So your social media post. I think a lot of people think repurposing as take big and make it little, but look at these little things you've created and see if you can make them bigger. Emails that you've written, emails that you've written in the sense of email marketing, but also like talking to a client. Maybe you gave a client a big win via email and they were so pleased that you said something so motivated to them. How can you take that and move it into a longer form piece of content that could work from an SEO perspective of attracting new people to your website?
I love that. Yeah, I mean, we have, in growth architecture, we have a whole system that we built out on how to maximize content, because I record a video, and then we take this video, and the video then gets turned into a blog post, and then that blog post gets turned into smaller pieces and quotes, and so there's a whole chain. So one piece of content turns out to be 15 to 25 touch points. And
Absolutely.
I like this idea, Erin, to say, what about if we do it the reverse? So we have an article that I wrote, um, that was it was a 15-minute video, and when my writer got it, she says, "What do you want me to do? It's like 15 minutes long. I mean, that's not a 500 word or 750 word article. That's like 1,500 to 2,000 words." And I said, "Well, we don't really do that kind of long form content." But then when we did the research, we found that actually SEO is very favorable to very
Mhm.
long content with the appropriate, sub headlines in the middle of it. And so we put it out, and lo and behold, it's one of our best performing articles on LinkedIn,
Yeah,
and one of the most widely shared ones, because it adds, instead of the clickbait, here's a flashy headline, but it's a very thoughtful piece that has now been shared. We just published it. It has been shared like 10 times, which on LinkedIn is good,
it is, yeah.
especially with what's going on. So I like your idea of encouraging our audience to really look into this and say, what do I have? Because it's not always more, 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 more,
No.
but I think it's deeper.
Yeah, and
And
that's where I think people, at the beginning of this conversation, you said, SEO, you either love it or you hate it. People don't like it because what they hear, someone says, "Oh, SEO content," and automatically, like a bell goes off in their head, and it's like, "Ding, ding, ding! I have to write 2,000 word articles. I have to link those articles to another article," and it just seems so overwhelming that there's so much work that they have to do. But for businesses that are already in the marketing world, they've created a lot. And again, what I see time and time again is you have a business that is excellent at email marketing and it's never taken out of that. You have a podcaster who creates incredible podcast, interviews incredible experts, but they don't actually use the content that they're creating in different forms, such as video, offsite SEO or on-site SEO, doing great show notes, and then even follow up blog to the topic. That's something that I think is like an easy step forward. And I don't love to use the word easy because I'm talking about overwhelm here. But if you just look at what you have and you give yourself the grace to say, can I make something out of this without starting from scratch? You lose the overwhelm. People do not like a blank page. I have been a copywriter. I've been publishing since right around like the millennial change, so over 20 years at this point. I hate a blank page. I hate opening my like Google Doc and there's nothing on there because there's so much pressure to have to write the perfect thing, right? And I'm a copywriter, guys. Like I have my own literary journal. I've been published and I've written books and I hate it. So what about you if you're not a writer? I can't imagine the amount of stress that must go into the pressure that people put on themselves to just look at a blinking cursor and not have any clue what to say.
The blinking cursor. I mean,
Yeah.
double pun, right? It is a curse by the
Yeah.
cursor that's just blinking and not doing anything. Love this. So, Erin, tell us, Erin, how can we find out more about you and where to find you and how can we work with you?
Absolutely. So if you're listening to this podcast, when you're done with the episode, just hop on over to my podcast, which is Talk Copy to Me. And this podcast is really geared for the right type of people listening to your show. They're people who care about marketing, whether they're going to do it themselves or hire someone. They really just want to understand why we do the things we do in the marketing world. So my show's Talk Copy to Me. Come on over, find me there. But you can also just come to my website. Here's the great thing about SEO, guys. My last name is spelled really funny. It's Ollila. Nobody can get it right. My children growing up would have baseball uniforms with their last names completely spelled wrong, even though the coaches have them written down. But SEO, like Google knows me. So if you type in my name and you spell it funny, you're still going to find your way to my website, which I know sounds really silly, but I love to bring that up because when we show Google who we are, and I say Google, but I mean all search engines, when we show the search engines that we are this type of job description, that we serve this type of clients, and obviously name's easy, then Google is going to bring people to us looking for that exact thing. So find me in my podcast, search for me on the internet, and either way, I promise you will find me. Google will send you my way.
I love that. Just toss in 3 L's randomly and you'll find her. That's what I'm hearing.
You
Thank
got
you
it
so
right.
much. Yeah, Erin, thank you so much for being on the show. It's been a real pleasure having you.
Thank you so much for having me.
And that's it for today. Thank you so much for listening, and I'll see you next time. This is Beate, the Growth Architect. And that's it for us today. Thank you for listening and watching the Business Growth Architect Show. I enjoyed having you here. And for accountability, just take one of the strategies that you have heard, one thing that you can implement in your business immediately. Please leave comments. Don't forget to like and share this show. And if you have any questions about business, please put them in the comments. We are here for you. We're here to support you and help you to grow, build, and scale your own business. For more advice, please check out our website in the show notes below. Thank you again. This is Beate Chelette, the Growth Architect, and goodbye.